A Monday with no 90-degree readings, so that was a plus. But boy, did the wind blow away today. We're going to talk about that. And this short break from the heat is just that, a short break, because we'll be seeing temperatures rise tomorrow and rise even more on Wednesday, and the threat for severe weather later in the day Wednesday. Meanwhile, tonight we have severe weather and heavy rains in parts of the northern plains to the western Great Lakes and heat advisories throughout much of the central and southern plains and the Mississippi Valley. So we'll talk about that and so much more on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. The revolutionary Tempest weather system is yours. And to get one and you become part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. It's easy to install. You run it right off your mobile device. The link is on the description to this podcast. And if you purchase this or anything else from the Tempest website, because they have such fabulous gadgets and gizmos, as well as smart weather fashion, use the coupon code SPRING 2024, which I still haven't changed. Spring 2024 is still the coupon code. And if you use it, you will still get
10% off. Yes.
So Joe is back, having lost his power, having
We
lost
lost.
his internet, lost his phone.
Yeah, we lost everything about 15 minutes before showtime last night at 7:15. Apparently there was a huge tree that came down about a half a mile down the road from us and took down wires and cables and everything else. So we were out of power. Now we have a generator, so we fired that up around 8 o'clock. Problem is that with the generator, it takes care of a fair number of electrical items here, but it doesn't do anything for the TV, for the phone, or for the internet. So we were still without that. Then at around 2:30 in the morning, the electricity came back. We still, however, didn't have any of the other things, phone and internet and whatever. And then at 11 o'clock this morning, everything went down again. The electricity went down. We were out of power again. But then an hour later, it came right back up, and with it came the internet, the TV, the phone, and we've been up ever since. So that's why
Uh,
we're here tonight, as
well,
opposed.
they probably had to take everything down um, and then bring everything back up at the same time. That's probably what happened today when
Yeah,
they to get everybody in sync.
yeah. Well, that was the case, and after that, I had a little lunch, and then I jumped on the tractor mower to get rid of the grass, which was overly long, and all the white clovers that were on the grass too. As you can see, I donned my my lawn ranger T-shirt for that, and took care of that. And I want to tell you, it was lovely to do that today, Joe, because what happened was we had winds, I would say conservatively gusting to 20 and 30 miles an hour, and kind of well, like more clouds than sun. And then just as I was finishing everything up, all of a sudden, it started to rain. We had no thunderstorms, but it started out as just light sprinkles, and the sprinkles became a bit steadier and slightly heavier. And now it's just, a cloudy, coolish, for a change, coolish and breezy evening. Very, very nice.
Good. Well, um, I'm glad you got your power back because if you hadn't gotten your power back, I was going to call my friend. I don't know that I mentioned this to you, but my friend Caleb Kimball at PP&L, Pixley Power and Light, to see if maybe he could have helped you out. But you seem to have had your problem solved.
Well,
And
I
by the
when we had the four Easters some years ago,
right,
and we lost power, I think, on three of the four storms. By the time we got to storm number four, we actually had help. There was so many, power lines down, not just in our area, but all across New York State. And so we had people from Prince Edward Island, Canada. They came to help us out, and they assisted in putting all the lines back up and together again. And we had a visit here in Putnam Valley from the then governor of New York, Mr. Cuomo. And
oh, because he just definitely wanted to see something, see one of those things that never happened before.
yeah, so And it was interesting. I don't know if one of the local politicians, had an in and was able to bring him here, but we had been without power for several days. The governor came. Yeah, this is disgraceful. We should have power every day. And within like a few hours after
There's
his,
an election coming.
and amazingly, since nothing was being done for a few days, and then all of a sudden the governor shows up, and within just a few hours, even less, boom, everything came back. All the power came back.
Well, just going back to the subject of the wind, I saw somebody comment on this, and I thought it was a interesting observation and probably true. Outside of a tropical system or a line of thunderstorms with straight line winds, he said that he could not recall ever seeing a day as windy as this. And I'm looking at some of the peak gusts, which I have up on the screen. You know, they could have actually put up a wind advisory for this. LaGuardia had a peak gust of 45 miles an hour, 46 for Newark. I saw now there was also a 46 for Stony Brook on Long Island, but uh, that anemometer is about 100 is 156 feet off the ground. So, it's there's a little distortion there. But you know what? Islip had a gust of 35. There was a gust of 48 at Mount Pocono and a gust of 47 at Scranton, at the airport in Scranton. In Hudson Valley winds, there were gusts into the mid 30s. Newburgh gusting to 35, 37 at Montgomery. I mean, for this time of year, to see 30 to 40 mile an hour winds on the backside of a front is pretty unusual.
Well, you saw that closed upper low that was moving across the Northeast, and the height lines were rather tightly drawn together, and that plus a pretty good gradient at the surface spelled out the reason why we saw those winds gusting the way they did. And actually, that took me by surprise. I mean, I had in my forecast, I think at the end of the last week, I had said that we would get severe weather on Sunday, and I said on Saturday that we'd get severe weather on Sunday, and then on Monday I said the humidity would be coming on down, and by the afternoon we would be seeing winds gusting to over 20 miles an hour. I thought that was a pretty good, you know, idea of what was going to happen. And I stepped outside this morning. I said, "My God, look at this! The winds are blowing like crazy already."
Right?
I was expecting that.
It was pretty unusual, and I'm just kind of looking further up into upstate New York. I mean, even in upstate New York, closer to the axis with the axis of the upper trough, the way it was, even up in upstate, the gusts to 30, 40 miles an hour, and in New England, it's like 25 to 35. Pretty odd. Oh, there's a 48. Corning Regional Airport in Elmira had a gust of 48, and Binghamton had a gust of 47. It's kind of funny. It's one of these days as I'm pulling up some of these numbers with the peak gusts, like all the airports, all the major observing stations got them. Atlantic City, a gust of 41. Millville, gust of 43. Philadelphia, gust of 45. So uh, I don't ever recall seeing a wind advisory up for this time of year. This could have qualified. This certainly could have qualified.
It was certainly unusual, and it couldn't have come at a better time after the stretch of 4 days of heat and humidity. We needed this, and admittedly, um, actually, I was thinking that today we would see temperatures top off close to 80. It didn't even get near that. At my house, it was high as 73 today, and with the winds blowing, it was actually quite refreshing. Certainly at this time of the year, you can't use a chill factor, but it cooled things off quite a bit. And again, really, we needed this after what we've been through over the last 4 days. And now it looks like, as you have advertised on our promo for Joe and Joe, Mr. Jaffe, it looks like the heat and humidity is coming back. But I get the idea, and tell me if you agree or disagree on this. I get the idea that although we are going to see heat and humidity return, um, generally, as we move into the month of July, what we're going to see is maybe, a day or two, or maybe even 3 days of heat and humidity. And then just as quickly, just as we saw yesterday, the cold front sweeps in, There'll be some heavy showers and storms accompanying it. Then we go back to a day or two of dry, pleasant weather. Then the heat and humidity returns for a couple of days, and then the front comes in. So it's going to be that kind of a pattern, it looks like, as we move on into the first part or for at least the first week or so of July.
Oh, I'm in total agreement. It's as long as the ridge stays flat across the southern states, and you have this northwest flow from Canada with short waves running along. Yeah, exactly. There'll be a cold front coming through every 3.5 days. So um, you're gonna warm up. By the way, the dew points right now are in a lot of places in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England are in the 40s. So we're talking like a really super dry air mass here. So tomorrow, I think what you're going to see is the temperatures are going to go up, and you'll probably see some spots get up near 90. Might even see a spot go or two go over 90. But the dew points will probably only come up through the 50s. So it's not going to be that uncomfortable tomorrow. It's actually going to feel pretty reasonable. It'll be hot, but at least it'll be reasonable. Wednesday, on the other hand, we'll be pushing 70 for dew points. And I think it's going to be another one of these situations where you're going to see there's another short wave coming down and moving along, and with the front coming into a very hot and humid air mass, daytime heating, all the rest of it. I think you got another setup for severe weather, which the Storm Prediction Center has already already has on their maps for late Wednesday and Wednesday night, and then yeah, then you'll just do it again. Cool off Thursday and Friday. Warm up a lot on Saturday, more humid, another cold front coming through maybe Saturday night with some showers and storms, and then it turns cooler and drier beyond it, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, and tomorrow, if you've never visited, let's say the West, Arizona or New Mexico or Nevada, and you hear the people out there saying, "Yeah, it's hot, but it's a dry heat," and tomorrow it will be a dry
Yep,
heat.
dry heat.
We'll have those temperatures high up in the upper 80s to around 90, but with the humidities being held at bay, being kept down in the 50s, yeah, it'll be a hot day, it'll be a dry day, but at least it'll be a day where it'll be tolerable. But as you point out, Joe, on Wednesday, back up go the dew points approaching 70, and then we prime the atmosphere for another possible disturbance of showers and storms with the next weather front later Wednesday and Wednesday night.
Yeah, by the way, here in North Georgia today, it was a beautiful day. We actually had the front go by here last night overnight, and for the first time in I don't know how many days now that we haven't seen rain, we actually had a little bit of rain last night. Not much. There were two distinct periods that I woke up to hearing a heavy shower go by. Um, but the dew points here are beautiful. I mean, my dew point here right now, it's 80 at the airport, it's 83. And at my house, it's 78. The dew point at the airport right now is 53. 53.
Wow.
So I'm probably going to get down into the near 60 by morning, as long as there's not much of a wind. And it was also kind of breezy here too. It was just really a very nice day. Wasn't terribly hot. And the one thing here with where I am in terms of my latitude being 5 degrees further south than you, or 6 degrees further south than you, when you're out there in the sun, even though the air temperature might say 80 or 81 or 82, that sun is so strong that you just feel hotter than it actually is. Uh,
Right.
but but you know what? Late June dew points in the 50s here, and low 50s. Uh, I'm definitely a happy camper. So let's take a look at what's going on watches and warnings wise. And there's not a whole lot happening from that respect. And we do have a severe thunderstorm watch in eastern North Dakota and into northwestern Minnesota, and flash flood watches in the southeastern part of the state into western Wisconsin. There's been a terrific amount of rain in this area. Um, I mean, somebody threw out the statistic. What did they get? Like 8 times the normal rainfall here in some places over the last week or so. So they've actually gotten clobbered here, and the Mississippi River source is up up in this area or goes through this area. And I just keep thinking back to last year when the Mississippi River basically dried up from north to south. And as often happens, you have one extreme in one year, the other extreme in the next year, and you add the two up and divide it by two, and you wind up with two average years. Go figure. But other than that, we have a few leftover counties in southeast North Carolina where there was a severe thunderstorm watch earlier in eastern North Carolina with some severe storms that moved through several hours ago. There's still a few handful of counties left that are under a watch. And in the middle, you got the heat advisories for the Gulf Coast, and then up the lower and into the middle Mississippi and Missouri River valleys, and then extending back into the Central Plains. We've got heat advisories and excessive heat watches, as that's where the heat is going, and this is where our hot air is going to be coming from. Not a whole lot happening in the West. It's relatively quiet. I got a few places here and there. They've got heat advisories in interior California, some excessive heat watches there, and that's pretty much it. And then when we check out the satellite loop tonight, uh, the upper trough that was in upstate New York earlier today, the center of that upper trough, the axis of the upper trough, that's now shifting eastward. So a lot of the clouds are starting to really thin out, and you're seeing skies go mostly clear across much of New York State and most of Pennsylvania now in the clear, and all this dry air making it as far south as central Georgia, and lightning strikes off the North Carolina coast, some lightning strikes with some thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast, a few scattered in Florida. And now you've got the buildup here. This you can already see, Joe, the next short wave that's coming down out of Canada. That's going to be the cold front that'll come through late Wednesday. I think ahead of it, we could certainly see middle 90s and maybe even a few places higher than that before the front, gets close enough to set off thunderstorms. And I have a feeling that they're going to be a little more widespread than they were yesterday. I mean, they were around, but there were a lot of places that didn't see anything. You were not one of those places, by the way. You did see
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there's going to be. I think the thunderstorm activity for tomorrow is going to be more widespread.
Yeah. The activity we saw yesterday, incidentally, it was interesting that there was a tremendously large tornado watch that covered a good part of central and northern New England, including places like New Hampshire and Vermont and down into parts of Connecticut. And yet, in the midst of all of that, not a single report of any damaging storm occurring in Massachusetts. I mean, when you consider that they were in that zone of 10% possible tornado, 5% hail, and 30% gusty or damaging winds, and there was not, I mean, there was storm reports to the north, storm reports to the south, but the entire state of Massachusetts got away yesterday with nothing at all. That was kind of like a Houdini act. I'm not sure if they're going to be so lucky on Wednesday, though. As you said, Joe, the activity on Wednesday may be a bit more widespread. Hopefully, not as potent as what we saw in places like yours truly's home yesterday, but there will be around later Wednesday and Wednesday, and they're all coming in to break up this siege of heat and put us back in a more comfortable weather pattern for Thursday into the end of the week on Friday.
Um, I think you could ring the bell because Paul Roman, Joe, just hit super chat.
Yes, well, we'll do that. Thank you, Paul. My bell is stuck. My bell hasn't been rung for so long that you
Well,
know.
you didn't have power. Nobody can blame you.
Right?
You forgot to recharge the bell.
Yes.
Well, Paul Roman, thank you for hitting super chat. He says, "Nice, thank you, nice work going solo." I said that last night, Joe. And I meant it with most of my heart. That um, you weren't there because I go through long stretches where I don't do a solo show, and then I do one, and I'm quite rusty. So we need to speak to Nicing about this. As I said, we could get Pixley Power and Light up your way. You wouldn't have this problem.
I will, I normally will not make any commentary, but I will say about my electric provider that for the past 3 years they have gone up and down our road and have put red dots on a number of different trees that have been close to power lines and cables, and with the intention of cutting those trees down so that we would not have an incident like last night. Now, I am not saying that the tree that fell last night was among those that they have painted over the last 3 years with a red dot and the intention of taking it down, but they still haven't taken any of these trees down. And it's probably because there are not a few people who live on my road who are very upset and are fighting the electric provider by saying, no, no, you're not going to take that beautiful tree down. No, 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 I'll fight you for that. And so I hope that,
Is that why, we had this conversation back a few months ago where, you've been waiting forever to them have them come down and trim these trees. And you mentioned that you actually spoke to somebody, said that, oh, we're going to be doing it like next week.
no,
Yeah, and you just blew them off and said that, yeah, right, okay.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. The guy
so
says,
clearly those trees have not been cut.
exactly, absolutely. Now, 3 years ago, when they first started putting the red dots down, I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Okay." And then over a year or two, the red dots gradually faded so that you couldn't see them anymore. So last October, late October, they came back down again and put new red dots on all these trees. And I spoke to one of the guys. I said, "So you're going to take these?" Oh yeah, oh yeah. I said, "What, in November?" Yeah, yeah. No, they're going by November. And November came, nothing. December, January, and of course during the wintertime you have cases where you have big storms with lots of wind, and you say to yourself, "Oh my God, we're going to lose power in the middle of a winter storm, or whatever. One of these trees will become crashing down." They never did, thankfully. But
Yes.
last night it was a whale of it was a short-lived but very heavy. I'll tell you how strong the winds were. I we Renata noticed this. We looked in our driveway, and the rain was coming down very heavily, and it goes down my driveway. The water does. There's a big flow of water coming down the driveway, but because the winds were so strong last night, at the height of the storm, the winds were actually blowing the water back up the driveway. And I said, "My God, this is I don't even know what the speed of the wind is, but it's got to be very strong in order to do that." And of course, also it comes into your mind, well, if those winds are very strong, we may have power problems. And at 7:15 last night, we're in our living room, in our TV room, watching 60 Minutes, and 60 Minutes went off for about 2 seconds but came back on again. And I said, "Oh, power surge, power thing."
Did you call up CBS demanding those missing 2 seconds?
And did not do that, but because about 30 seconds later, out went the TV and the electricity for good. Sometimes it comes back. This time it didn't. And it was obvious that it was because of the wind. And then the other thing was, I had no gas in either gas can for the generator. I mean, the generator had some gas in it, but it wasn't going to be enough to take us into the late part of the night. So I had to try to get to the gas station, and I didn't even know the gas station was running because, with the outage, they may not have had electricity for the gas tanks. Couldn't go down toward the gas station because it was blocked. Guy, red lights and all this sort of thing. Sorry, road closed. So that was probably where the tree came down, the offending tree that knocked out power. So I had to turn around, go all the way around, came back got to the gas station and had to wait because there were five other cars ahead of me, and every single one of them had gas cans, obviously for their generator. So, but
Well,
unfortunately, I
if
get
I
it.
if I were living close to you, I could come over because with my Crohn's disease, I could give you all the gas you could possibly want.
Thanks, Joe. We didn't need to hear that.
But it's so true. And anyway, actually, it's not that. Now that I'm getting,
That was
I'm
more
getting.
information than I think we needed to.
Oh, come on. We're having some fun here. Um, but no, actually, with the medication that I'm on, I don't have that problem anymore. But no matter. Radar is showing some leftover showers up in the great state of Maine, where we discovered how many people don't have air conditioning there. a couple of stray cells in northern New Hampshire. You can see the thunderstorms that are still left in southeastern North Carolina. A little severe thunderstorm warning comes and goes there. You've got the usual stuff where you see in Florida, some scattered cells along the Gulf Coast. And now we're seeing some severe weather popping up in northwestern Minnesota. Also, some rain and some heavier downpours moving into western Wisconsin. This is the area that has the flash flood watches up. And we've got some patches of showers and storms in western Nebraska, northwest Kansas, scattered in clusters around Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. The Storm Prediction Center tonight, we have two severe thunderstorm watches at the moment. One in eastern North Dakota to northwest Minnesota, and a second in eastern and southeastern Minnesota into western Wisconsin. I'm sorry, those are two tornado watches that we have going on at the moment. No, they have them in red, and then how can you have it in red on one map, meaning a tornado warning, and then have it in blue in the other? I take it back. Apparently, there is only one. The other map had two. This one has one. So there's one severe thunderstorm watch. It's the one in eastern North Dakota and into um, northwestern Minnesota. And there's an enhanced risk area there across Wisconsin. For that area, they've issued two mesoscale discussions for potential for severe thunderstorm watch possible, which usually when they use that word, it means that there's a fairly good chance that you're going to wind up seeing a severe thunderstorm watch. Tomorrow, it's marginal to slight risk from the Central Plains to the Great Lakes and as far east as the Pennsylvania-Ohio border, and the slight risk from Nebraska and northeast Kansas into southwestern Michigan. The tornado risk in that swath is 2%. And then as we move on to day three, and this is for Wednesday into Thursday, we have a slight risk running across Pennsylvania from the southwest corner to the northeast corner into the Catskills, the Hudson Valley, and northwest New Jersey, but a fairly large area of marginal risk that goes well up into upstate New York, into southern Vermont and New Hampshire, and the southern flank across central Virginia, southwestward back to Arkansas, and then kind of loops around through southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and cuts Ohio on a diagonal. And again, I think we may see that slight risk area get expanded a bit.
Expand more to the northeast or expand more to the south and west?
I think they might expand it in both a little bit in both directions,
And
and
well,
maybe and also maybe on the southern bring the southern flank further south.
do you think maybe that, as was the case yesterday, that there might be a small area of enhanced inside of that slight risk? Or
I think we'll have to wait for Wednesday to figure that out.
I think the trough that's coming through on Wednesday is not quite as sharp and distinct as what we had here yesterday and last night. So,
So
uh,
that might be that might be what maybe that's what'll hold back um, the enhancement, unless somehow with all the daytime heating is really overpowering that you wind up with some, a small area of enhanced someplace. But I think for now, at least tomorrow, I don't think they would do it tomorrow. I think if they're going to do it, they would do it Wednesday when they
yeah,
could, they have the dayside HRRR, and they could see how warm and unstable the atmosphere really is with the soundings.
we'll see. Let's hope it. Let's hope it does not come to pass. We had more than our fair share yesterday, said the man who had to go without power for 12 hours. We don't need any more of that kind of stuff, but we'll see. Anyway,
Rainfall amounts for the next 7 days from Maine to eastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina, half to three quarters. There are some patches here and there that WPC has drawn of an inch and a half plus. And at this time of year, with everything being mostly convective, oftentimes we've experienced double whatever's being forecast in local areas, especially in instances where we're dealing with slow moving thunderstorm complexes. I don't know that we have that this time around, but I think there's two fronts that we're dealing with here. There's the one for late Wednesday, and there's probably going to be another one late Saturday into Saturday night. So this will kind of cover both of those. And we still have more heavy rain for places like Iowa, southeast Minnesota, Wisconsin, northwestern Illinois, and northern Missouri on the order of an inch and a half to some places 3 inches on top of what's already fallen. And the half inch goes all the way back into western Nebraska and northeast Colorado, also seeing some heavy amounts in the central and southern Rockies in Colorado and New Mexico of half inch to little small patches of an inch and a half. And you can see this little area, the area that comes up through Mexico and heads down into Arizona, into southern Arizona, where you've got some big rain amounts in the Mexican mountains. That is, probably the first sign of the southwest monsoon getting underway. So we'll see how that plays out. In the meantime, just looking at the pattern overall, and I'm back to last Friday on the upper air, and you can see here, this is where we had this, this big upper high, which, by the way, um, I wish I could find it. In fact, I'm going to do that now. Just give me a moment here. Um, Now, you know what? When we come back full screen, Tony Gigi wrote something about this recent weather pattern on Facebook that I saw, and he hit on so many good points, and I think it's worth repeating. For those of you who don't know, Tony Gigi used to work at the National Weather Service in Mount Holly, and he has been a guest here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast many times. But here's the upper ridge and you can see this was late last week. The flow from Canada was well up to the north. That ridge weakened all through the weekend, and it allowed the northwest flow to get established. And here came the short wave that moved through last night. That was fairly sharp, and also now moving through today. A little cutoff low there. That's probably why it got so windy, and this thing just cut off the way it did, sitting in southern New Hampshire and eastern Massachusetts. That moves out, and now here comes the next one. And yeah, the shortwave here is not quite as sharp. It's definitely there. It's a fairly decent shortwave, but it's not quite as sharp as what went through last night. But that might get made up with some daytime heating. So we'll see how that plays out. But you see also the ridge now is in the western part of the United States. As long as we have some semblance of a northwest flow with short waves running around, it's not going to be able to get hot for more than a day or two, as we said earlier in the show. So now we're going into Friday and Saturday. The same thing happens here. Front goes by Wednesday night. Thursday's kind of like today, but probably not as windy and probably not as cool. Then we start to warm up on Friday. We get hot and humid on Saturday. And then the next short wave, this one goes further north, but eventually moves into New England. You see it here uh, late in the weekend. So it probably means another front comes through, and then that goes out. Then the ridge tries to build, and another short wave. Well, it kind of comes after well after the 4th of July. So we'll see what happens after the one for next Saturday and how it impacts the week of the 4th of July. There probably might be another front on the Wednesday, the day before the 4th, when the flow is relatively, still on the northwest side. So let's look at the what the GFS is doing here with the showers and storms for Wednesday. Here's the surface map. It's got some kind of a warm front here, Joe. Tomorrow night, it actually has, I guess with the dew points as low as they are as we make the transition, the GFS actually has some showers uh, tomorrow evening in northern New Jersey to Long Island, northwest up to Lake Ontario. And that's kind of the warmth. That's going to be the switch over to the big surge of humidity on Wednesday,
Right.
and then you see it's got these patchy thunderstorms from Maine down through New Jersey and Virginia. Then they move out. Thursday looks good. Here comes Friday, another warm front. So this will probably be another transition over to humidity later Friday and Saturday, and then we get a cold front that comes through Saturday night. GFS is not doing much with this. It's got most of the thunderstorms actually from southern New Jersey southward through the Carolinas and into Georgia and into Alabama. And then that goes out, and then we got another dry air mass. So, and on it goes. So let me, I ran that through that too fast. So, okay, Here's Wednesday. Why did that mess up here? Hold on. This is what the radar's supposed to look like on Wednesday. It's actually pretty. Look at this. I'm sorry. I guess I must have had my time wrong. I got so many things bouncing around in my head, and I'm juggling so many balls that I must have had the GFS a couple of fronts ahead. But the GFS has a pretty impressive area of thunderstorms coming through here tomorrow night, and they go
Wed-
out
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night. Yes, I mean it's showing some. This is supposed to be the radar, how the radar's supposed to look. Let me get close up.
And it looks like that be the case. That's the nasty area, or the nastiest area would be this time for Central and South Jersey.
Right, although it does have some strong cells as far north as, not quite to Albany, but not far away
Right.
in the Hudson Valley. How about we take a look at what the HRRR has, which of course, whatever it has, it's going to change tomorrow anyway. But this was the 18Z HRRR. So it doesn't have the warm. Okay, so there's nothing. Forget the warm front thing tomorrow night. That was my mistake. Okay, that goes way to the north. And now let's go to Wednesday afternoon. Well, it only goes out to 18Z Wednesday, and it has storms still back in Ohio and Indiana. How about the European? Okay, so let's look at the European Wednesday. Yeah, the European has got most of the storms after 8, probably Wednesday evening, and they move on through. This is not the radar presentation. This is actual precip that moves by. But they all seem to have something. And the NAM 3, we could take a look at that and see what the 3 kilometer NAM does. Let's go close up. Okay, here's the close up. So the NAM 3, which, has its moments sometimes, has some pretty wicked storms here into southeast Pennsylvania, and then crossing New Jersey and over New York City, the Hudson Valley, and Long Island. So every model, this is what's so frustrating. When you look at these short-term models and you compare it to the globals, every one of the models has a different idea of what the radars are going to look like. Okay. And my usual rule with this is you just wait till the actual day and see what the radar shows you.
Right. Well, it's fairly obvious that we'll know on Wednesday. As I agree with you that they probably will have um, a better idea as to whether or not they may want to bump part of that slight risk zone up into the enhanced zone. It appears that if they do that this time around, the enhanced zone might be further south. Let's say south of New York City, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right, I'm going to find um, that post from Tony Gigi. Uh, all right, so that wasn't it. That wasn't it. And it's got several posts here with regards to the recent weather pattern. Um, now I'm sorry, just bear with me here. He wrote something, and it was just I want to quote him because it was just so well done.
Was this from Facebook or wasn't it?
No, it was and it was on Facebook. Oh, here it is. Okay, so um, this is a post that he put up, and since he worked at Mount Holly, so he's looking at Philadelphia. The highest temperature that Philadelphia hit in this recent heat wave was 98, and it actually broke a record that went back to I think 1888 or something like that. Um, So here we go. He says, yes, with the caveats, what did not work for Philadelphia might have worked elsewhere. It is not unusual for a model to do well in one area and a different model for the same day slash regime do better in another area. The irony is, keep these summer tables to pretty much validate how silly he keeps tables of summer weather. He keeps uh, summer tables, to pretty much validate how silly the GFS is with these 100-degree Fahrenheit plus forecasts especially in La La Land, where it should never have been posted. Um, be careful for what you wish for, because along comes the Euro on its white knight to make the GFS and especially the GGEM look like the voices of accuracy and reason. By the way, the ECAIFS, which is the AI version of the European as of today, is not very intelligent looking, and the fact that it has and the fact wait and the fact that it will have more accurate forecasts for than the operational during this just concluded heat wave is pretty embarrassing. If this was a one and done deal, move on. The operational Euro did this again with the September heat wave last year. As to why, not much is going to jump out at me. But with this regime, it was way, as in way too low with the forecast afternoon dew points. Makes it easier to hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit, also cuts down on any potential cooling convection as the convective temperature is out of reach. So please stop that. This summer is going to be hot enough on its own. By the way, for this forecast map, the Philadelphia dew point verified is 63. So, the point is, this recent stretch where we had all these models with the 600 plus highs up in New England and generating numbers like 109 for daytime highs. I mean, clearly that was all absolute crap.
Well, I mean that goes along with what do we had like a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, the 50.8 inches of snow.
Right,
You know,
right, exactly. So I just thought it was. I got to call. I'm going to message him. When he's not when he's busy, when he has some time when he's not playing golf, but we can get him back on. I'm sure he'll have plenty to say with regards to the recent model developments. So anyway, it's about a little Briller Jeopardy.
and we do have Briller Jeopardy tonight from Mr. Briller. And let me just get it on Facebook here. And all right. So now we have finished with the retired names, and now we have moved to average high temperature in June, which is coming quickly to an end. Average high temperature in June in selected cities. So these are the average June high temperatures, Joe. And we'll start with a place near and dear to your heart because you're just north of there, Atlanta. The normal high temperature in June in Atlanta.
Well, it's got to be. I'm going to say. I'll say. I don't know. 92.
That's a little bit on the high side,
It
Joe.
is.
Believe it.
Okay. Mike Waterhouse says 88. Greg Carlberg says 86. Vincent Croce says 89. Maggie P said 90.
Well, I saw a couple of people with 87, like Rich
John
Rothman
Melander and Rich Mothmansky and Frank R. and Paul Roman and Carol DiCara all have 87.
and Krishnapedia, and you all who hit 87 got it right smack on the nose, 87 degrees.
Well, they got to
Now,
98 on Saturday here, so
yeah, but these are
I
averages.
know. I hear you.
How about Boston?
How about Boston? Uh, let's see. Well, it was from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. I'll say 79, 77.
Ooh, Joe, Snake Country there. Patrick Darcy also said 77.
Frank R said 78.
Well, that's a little too high, so
So you know where we're going with this. So it's obviously 76,
76. Average June high temperature.
which
So
is what William Ubert has.
yes. Let's go to Chicago.
I don't know. My head's not in it tonight. Boston was 76. I'm going to say for Chicago, I'll say 79.
Not quite high enough. But Vincent Croce got it on the nose with 81.
Okay. Well, 79 wasn't a terrible guess.
No, 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 it's not terrible.
It was off by two.
the little man's not going to fall off the ski slope with that. How about Dallas, Big D?
All right, for Dallas, I'll say 92.
Oh, another snaky prediction.
Um, okay, so Maggie P says 90, and Christinepedia says 93, and
And
Miss
Miss
Fallerite, William Uber, Leon Probitsky, all saying 93. Josie, so it's 93.
93.
Okay.
Yes. I worked at a radio station, did the weather there for, 11 years. Easy 93, WPAT. Now it's Suave 93. It's a Spanish station. Anyway, Denver.
Oh, I hate when you do that. Oh, God. It's always, it's so crazy there.
Let me ask the question. Has the snow melted yet in Denver?
Well, right, exactly. And as the snow melted, and was it 100 degrees the next day or the day before? I'll say, I don't know. I'll pick a round number. I'll say 80.
Ah, nope, not high enough.
Not high
However,
enough.
we do have some people who did hit it on the. Oh no, they didn't. Sorry about that.
Well, Carol DeCara says 83. Joe
Yes,
Z says 83.
it's very close.
Thank Thank Kimball says 86. Must be
Too
related
high.
to Mr. Kimball.
But
Alan
Alan
Rupa says 84.
Rupa and Maggie P both get it with 84 degrees. And now, let me. This will be a reason for ringing the bell again. A bonus, a bonus city, Caribou.
They got to 97 or 8 a couple of times last week. I'll say, what did we say for Boston? 70 what?
76.
I'll say for Caribou 72.
And a little on the high side.
A little high. Leon
Yep.
Probisky said 70.
No, that's
Still too high.
yeah, that's still too high.
Sorry. Greg Carlberg says 69.
Yes,
Patrick
69.
Darcy said 68.
Kyla Fenga says 69 with a question mark. And Thank Kimball says 69. All of you hit 69. You got it. 69.
69. All right. Well, very good. 71 likes tonight, which is not too shabby, at least from
Shabby indeed.
recent standards. The Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, Shabby or Unshabby, is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary weather system that you can run from your mobile device. It is easy to install, and then you become part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. The coupon code is SPRING 2024, and use it, because if you don't, you won't get.
10% off.
By the way, I don't know about you, but on Facebook, on Reels, I went from getting all these 1 minute to minute 30 videos of animals going, predators going after their prey in the wild, to now I'm getting all these um I don't know what you'd call them, but they're sort of like these public service films, okay, that were run in the late 40s and 50s, on what's the proper way to call for a teenager to approach a teenage boy to approach a teenage girl for a date, as one example. um and then there's a bunch of others that I really don't want to mention on the air specifically, because they're a little sensitive. But um I don't know what it is. I don't know why the algorithm is sending me these things. It's just so weird. And I'm also seeing, I saw an old girdle commercial today, and it was called, this girdle was called Magic, I think it was called Magic Pool.
Okay.
And it had like, each girdle had 50,000 little holes punched into it, so that when a woman would wear it, she would feel cool, you know. and refreshing. I was like, oh my God, they really ran these things on television in those days. I never heard of it. I mean, I remember the Playtex Living Bra commercials where
Yes.
the bra would come alive. Um, for some reason, the algorithms decided that I need to see these things. So now we know what I'm going to be doing after the show is over. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow night at 7:35, usual shopping time. Bye bye.
Bye bye, folks.